Yo, what's good? It's O.D.D.I.T.Y, and welcome back to another episode of The Craft, where we talk all things hip hop, from experiences, opinions, techniques, writing styles, recording styles, you name it. I want this channel to be just the epicenter of hip hop, everything hip hop. So, welcome back. Let's get into this week's episode.
Some just do it for the cash, others do it for the passion. Is you working on your craft? Is you really about that action? Some just do it for the cash, others do it for the passion. Is you working on your craft? Is you really about that action? The Craft. Welcome.
So I get asked a lot of times, like, what is my process of writing a song? How did I come up with something? How do you make it flow? How is it so concise? How do you stick to a topic or a theme? Or why don't you stick to a topic or a theme? It doesn't matter, but just like the process of writing a song. And the first thing I always tell new artists is there's two methods. The first method is hear a song and just write. And a lot of times with that, you get more pure, initial, passionate writing, but it's not as focused. You oftentimes don't have, if you're someone who wants to have layers and depth, you don't get the layers and depth as much because it's just coming off of the top of your brain. And I guess it depends on, how much you have in your brain, where you don't have to reference. And the second option style would be brainstorming. And that has been something that's been instilled in me since I was in school, writing papers, essays, just to brainstorm, because that's essentially your outline blueprint of what you're going to talk about. And if you're doing a song that's thematic, conceptual, or you're doing an album or an EP, regardless, even if it's just one song by itself, brainstorming, figuring out the topic, figuring out the flow of the song, how you want the beginning. If you wanted to start off, at what point in the story do you want to reverse the story and tell it from backwards? It's like how movies do, where you see the ending of it and then it goes backwards to how it began throughout the movie. Or do you want to just get into the early part of it and tell the story as it goes to the end? I know that this is maybe a little bit more in depth than a lot of artists are used to, but I think this is a good way if you want to make deep, layered, conceptual songs. And so what I typically do is when I hear a beat, I listen to it and try to brainstorm how the sounds, how it initially made me feel. I write down words or phrases, or if I can think of lines, I write them down. I think of themes of how the production makes me feel. And once I, have narrowed in on a theme, I'm like, okay, this theme matches the production, how it sounds, and I could see the topic within this song. Then I get to, start figuring out the story and how I want to tell it. And, let's say that the production made me want to talk about my childhood. Let's just say that that's what it was. That's still broad, right? So childhood is like the first part of the brainstorming element. Then it's like you keep listening and it's like, oh, I hear this sound, or this sound made me think of this moment in my childhood, and break it down even more. And then it really just depends on how concise you want to be in your storytelling. How if you just want to talk about your childhood, a song about missing being a kid, you go from there. But if you want to get into a particular moment in your childhood, you can go that way. And so brainstorming helps you cipher through those options. And for me, it's made me feel a lot better about writing a song than, I write purely off the passion of hearing it. And you can do it that way, and then you can still go back and revise it if you want. And sometimes it does work. If you hear a song and it just makes you feel something, you write what comes to your mind. Don't overthink it, and you can always go back and edit it. There's no right or wrong way, but I think, especially if you're making an album, it's good to map out, brainstorm, figure out thematically what you want to talk about. You also don't want, I shouldn't say you don't want, because it's up to you, but if you're doing 2 verses, in great storytelling, you don't want those verses to overlap content unless you're just doing a broad song. You want the verses to flow. So like, let's say you're talking, again, referencing the childhood. First verse could be a certain period of your childhood. Then you hit the hook. The hook is what ties together those verses. And then the second verse could be further in your childhood. So that's just an example, but there's no right or wrong way, but I think that brainstorming can only make your songs stronger, more thoughtful, more layered, and have better direction. And that just goes with any type of writing a book, writing an essay, writing a paper. It is time consuming, and it's not for everybody. This is not saying you should do this or your song is going to be trash. No, this is just for people who are wondering, how can I make my songs more structured, not structured, more layered, and have a better direction. So as always, if this is your first time tuning into the channel, let me know what you think. Leave me a comment. Let me know if this was helpful advice. If you're returning back, make sure you continue to like the videos and bump them up in the algorithm. Leave a comment, share, and I'm O.D.D.I.T.Y. Thanks for tuning in to The Craft, and I'll catch you next episode.